So it's currently 3:40 in the morning. I'm just going to go and check on the baby goats that we had born yesterday. I've turned the lights on and everybody's very quiet, so we'll see. Oh, I can see the black one is stood up, so that's good. And the white one is cuddled up next to the water bucket. Here we go. So I bought them some more colostrum. So I had milked her earlier and mixed it in with some powder, like formula colostrum, but I've just had to replace it. I haven't got any more colostrum from her. I'm hoping they're drinking that. Obviously, normally we wouldn't have to do any of this. Normally they'll just do it all on their own. But just because she's not got quite enough milk, which is why we've got to just give them a little bit of a top up. You can see this one really wants Trippy to stand up so they can have some milk. I've also brought down a hot water bottle because I wasn't sure how warm or cold they would be, but I have a good feel in their mouth to check their temperature, just like this. That one's a nice temperature. And I'll check this one as well. Yeah, that one's a little bit colder, but it's fine. Can you see it's sucking on my finger? It's a really good sign. So I'm just going to try and bottle feed this one. They haven't been taken very well to the bottle, but we'll see how they get on. So all I do is I put my finger wriggler in the side of its mouth just to open up its mouth, then pop the bottle in. This bottle is huge for the size of the kids. This is a lamb's bottle. You see, I don't know if you can see that, it's drinking really well. This is better than it was earlier. It's giving it a proper munch and an actual suck. Ooh, it's spilling it, but... So the suckling action is really good for them. So we could tube feed them, but we'd rather they drank from a bottle because the suckling actually stimulates their stomach to work properly. Sorry, it's like focusing in and out. I'm not sure what's going on. But yeah, and then I'll try the other one in a minute. I'll make sure, I'll just like alternate between the two of them, give them a break and then go back to them. And we're hoping that they're going to drink the whole lot, but I don't think they will because that's more milk than goat. Worked out where it wasn't focusing, there was straw on the camera. We got Phyllis is trying to help me here. This one's been drinking really well, other than Donkey chewing the bottle. This is Phyllis. She's one of our 3 donkeys here. And she's also due to give birth at some point soon, but we're not quite sure when she's due, so we shall see. We've flooded it. Sometimes when they try and drink so fast, they can't drink fast enough. So then they end up breathing it in. Look! I can hear Trippy's stomach is gurgling quite a lot. Bless her. She's got plenty of food and she is eating, she is drinking, but I would imagine there's just a lot more room in her stomach than there previously had been. I'll just flip you around because they're both drinking or trying to drink off of Mum. So you might be wondering why it's got blue feet. There's nothing wrong with it, don't panic. Basically, because the umbilical cord, I'll see if I can show you, because the umbilical cord is so fresh. I know, sweetheart. We put blue spray. I would like to normally use iodine, but because Trippy had given birth to them in such a mucky spot, we decided to use blue spray. And I'll probably iodine them in going forwards, but I will blue spray them again now, and then I might iodine them tomorrow. I'm not really sure if it makes any difference, but it just basically keeps the umbilical cord clean. It's a big hole, basically a completely open hole into their insides, pretty much. So we do have to keep it really clean, which is why I couldn't believe it that she had given birth to them in the muck. But they were still quite clean, but obviously that is a really, really bad choice of birthing place. Just in terms of potential infection and things like that. It's still a bit hunched up, and they're not standing quite right with their legs, but they're getting there. This is one of Trippy's poos, just for comparison. It is quite a small poo, but it's also quite a small goat. Don't sleep under there, buddy. I did also think people might be wondering why we put Trippy in an individual pen. So she's in a separate pen, just to basically make it so that we can feed her extra and it's not going to get eaten by the donkeys or the other goats. So she's in a pen inside of their normal pen, so that she's still got her friends all around her. They're just not in the pen directly with her. And also just avoids any accidents of anything treading on the little goats, because they're not going to get out of the way of a donkey or another goat. And they can be quite grumpy at times. Phyllis is being quite grumpy now. Aren't you, girl? She wasn't happy with Rosie stood next to her. Bless him. So yeah, I'm gonna try a few more goes with some milk, and we'll see how they get on. And then I'm gonna go back to bed, get a little bit more sleep before we get up and start the day again. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. Hopefully they'll drink a lot more than they have drunk, because currently there's not really much missing from the bottle. But I'll just alternate between the two of them, and we'll see how we get on. Lots of people have this idea that bottle feeding baby animals is super cute and super nice, but to start with, until they get the hang of drinking off of a bottle, it's just really tedious. It's a lot of fiddling around with the bottle, perseverance, and so much patience is required. Lamb or goat kid that requires extra feeds for a bottle will test every ounce of your patience, every single bit when you're tired. At the minute I'm fine, because this is only one night that I've had to wake up in the middle of the night, but when you've been doing this for 5 weeks, it's very different, and you can understand why it does get quite frustrating at times. So do bear that in mind if you go to a farm and you're feeding bottle lambs and things like that. Somebody has spent days and days trying to train them to the bottle and train them to drink that well. They don't just suddenly drink. I think people think that's what happens, that you give a bottle to a lamb and then it just drinks. I wish it was that easy. I really do, but it's not. This one's umbilical is still quite wet, so basically once they're dry, I will stop spraying them, but until that point I will spray them every time I come in with them. So they are going to get quite blue. Obviously I'm only spraying the umbilical cord area of the goat. However, as they lay down, roll around, climb about, it does spread a bit. That's why they've got blue feet at the minute. Come on. It was sucking really well just then, and it's just stopped. I don't know how well you can see. It's literally doing nothing now. What you doing, bud? Come on up here. So cute. He's got milk around his face. He's got a slightly odd, like properly domed head. So I do wonder if he's a little bit premature. He's definitely not, obviously, as grown as he should be. Could have done with the cooking for a little bit longer in there, I think, for making his appearance into the world. But he's here now, so we shall do our best, won't we? I would still say they're not out of the woods just yet. But they are obviously doing much better than they initially were when we first came across them. when they were cold and shivering and just pretty well, they weren't lifeless, but they were weak. They couldn't stand up. So this bottle, because somebody has very kindly cut the top off, which normally is good, but for a kid this small it's not ideal. But this is the smallest hole we've got, but it does mean that the milk pours out, so I can't just hold it up the whole time. Normally you would hold the bottle like this the whole time, but the second I lift it up it's pouring milk down them, and obviously if they're not sucking and swallowing, I don't want to drown them. That would be very unfortunate. So yeah, I just pop it up and down. And also, like, this sudden rush of milk that comes into their mouth sort of encourages them to try and suckle a little bit, because the bottle is changing in their mouth. I know people that have put honey on teats before to try and get things to suckle. I've never personally tried it. I probably would if there was a situation where I just couldn't get it to drink. But previously, when I've been in that situation, I've just tube fed them. So a tube feeding is where you put a tube in their mouth and it goes all the way down into their stomach. Make sure it's not in their lungs, just by listening on the end to make sure that there's no air noises coming in and out the tube, basically. And then you syringe or pour in basically the milk, and then it goes straight into their stomach. It's a lot, so you'd normally do smaller amounts but more often. But yeah, I don't think that would be appropriate for these guys at the minute, because they are trying to suckle and they need to sort of improve their suckling. They're shivering in my arms. Oh, it's not a bad job, is it? We're quite lucky. Right, let's put you down. Yes, right. They're so cute. They're so cute. Trippy's now up and about. I don't know if I explained earlier, but Trippy's called Trippy T, because she has this little T on her side. So that's why we decided to call her that. So here I've just got a water bottle, this cardboard box. I did put them in earlier, but I'm just going to leave it there for now, just because it blocks out any breeze and things like that. And then this is a wool liner that we normally put in our lamb and beef boxes that we deliver. But I've taken it out the plastic packaging. Originally I took it out the plastic packaging to show people what it looks like, because lots of people were a bit curious, but it is just wool made into a little carpet almost, but it's really good insulation and it's nice and dry for them, so I popped that there. That little one seems to be enjoying the heat of the hot water bottle. I mean, normally you'd put a heat lamp in and things like that, but we haven't got electricity that goes all the way up here, and I don't feel happy leaving a heat lamp on overnight. And I don't want to take them away from Mum, because Mum still loves them and they still want to be with her. So I think for now I'm happy with just a water bottle. They're not hypothermic, they're just a little bit chilly, but it is quite a cold night, so it's been a very, very wet and miserable night. But yeah, so we'll just scoot this one over as well, because you're also a little bit shivery. Go on then, buddy. Good boys. I'm not coming up with any names yet, because I don't feel like we're out of the blue with both of them yet. Pop your legs under, darling. They just don't seem to fold back up neatly. But yeah, I love the markings on this one. Very lovely markings, and they're both very different to their mum and their dad. Their mum is Stanley, if you've ever seen Stanley before. He's mainly white, so he does look a little bit more like this one, and he has got little bits of black in him though. But yeah, we shall see how they get on, but neither of them look like Mum. She's a lovely girl. Bless her. We love her little tea that she's got. So normally for naming, when we do come to naming these guys, I mean, if you have any suggestions, feel free to pop them in the comments. But we normally name them with the same letter as their mum, just because it helps the confusion when there is 20 goat kids running around the place and trying to sell them. So these guys will be sold for pets, just to other people with maybe small holdings or open farms, or that just want some goats as pets in the garden. So yeah, they need to begin with the letter T. Last year, Trippy had a girl and a boy called Tabs and Tony. So yeah, ideally not Tabs and Tony. Hey girlie. Bless her. But yeah, if you've got any name suggestions, do put them in the comments. I'm not going to choose names just yet. If we get to the point where I think we're out of the woods, then I'll do a separate video and we can pick some names then. But for the meantime, they're just two little boys who are very well loved by Mum. Trippy T.